It looked like an ordinary penny. Brown, worn, the kind of coin you'd glance at for half a second before dropping into a change jar. But this was no ordinary penny. In 1993, in the bustling Denver Mint, a tiny imperfection slipped past the eyes of inspectors. It was so subtle that even seasoned collectors missed it for years. Yet today, one of these rare 1993 D Lincoln pennies has fetched up to $1.3 million, and the reason why will make you look at your pocket change in a completely different way. It began with a collector who didn't even know he was holding history in his hand. He had bought a jar of old coins at a garage sale, the kind most people overlook. Hidden in that jar was a single 1993 penny, its copper surface hiding an incredible secret. He almost spent it on a cup of coffee. Instead, he tossed it on his desk, where it sat for months, until one night, under the warm glow of a desk lamp, he noticed something strange. The lettering on the coin seemed just a little off. The spacing between the numbers and the date was unusual. And then, as he tilted it in the light, he saw it, the faintest, almost ghost-like doubling on the date and on Liberty. His heart raced. Could this be one of the elusive Denver Mint errors from '93? But here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. When he brought it to a dealer, the man's jaw literally dropped. "Do you have any idea what you're holding?" he asked. At first, the collector thought maybe it was worth a few $100s. But when experts examined the coin, they confirmed the impossible. It was a nearly flawless, mint-condition 1993 D penny with a rare double die obverse, struck from a die that had been subtly misaligned during production. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on this coin. It wasn't just rare, it was practically unknown. And because of its pristine state, the bidding war that followed was nothing short of historic. The final hammer came down at an auction, and the room went silent. The price? Just over $1.3 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Because whispers began to spread that there were more of these pennies still out there. Pennies that could be sitting in old jars, rattling in car cup holders, or hiding between couch cushions. The Denver Mint had reportedly struck thousands before catching the error, but most were already in circulation before the correction was made. That means right now, somewhere, someone is walking around with $1 million coin in their pocket without knowing it. The thrill of the hunt began. Forums lit up. Collectors started combing through their change with magnifying glasses. Some found close calls, coins with minor errors that still sold for thousands. But the true jackpot, the exact type that brought in over $1 million, remained maddeningly elusive. And that's where the legend of the 1993 D penny took on a life of its own. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle. Another collector claimed he found one in a bankroll of pennies he got for just 50 cents. Imagine you walk into a bank, trade a dollar bill for 2 rolls of pennies, and walk out holding something worth more than your house. That's the reality of coin hunting when you know exactly what to look for, and here's where you need to pay close attention. If you want to find this coin, you can't just glance at the date and move on. You need to study the fine details. Look for the D mint mark, placed just under the date. On the valuable version, the numbers 1993 might show subtle doubling, a sort of shadow effect, especially on the 9 and 3. The word Liberty may also have slight doubling, though it's often faint. The surface of the coin should be crisp, with minimal wear, since condition is everything in pushing it into the $1 million range. But here's the catch most people miss. Many counterfeiters have tried to create fake doubled dies, and experts can spot them instantly. The genuine error comes from a true misalignment in the die, not damage after the coin was struck. That's why authentication from a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC is essential. Without that proof, your coin could be worth only face value. And one more thing, sometimes the error isn't obvious to the naked eye. Under 10x magnification, the details become clearer. That's why serious hunters carry a jeweler's loupe. It's not just a tool, it's your doorway into spotting a fortune hiding in plain sight. So the next time you hold a penny, especially a 1993 D, stop and look. Tilt it under the light. Examine every curve, every letter, every number. Somewhere out there, just waiting to be found, is a coin that could change your life forever. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It was just an ordinary penny, or so everyone thought. A worn little copper coin from 1960, bearing the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln, passed from hand to hand for decades. It jingled in pockets, clinked in cash registers, and lay forgotten in drawers. But when one collector looked a little closer, he uncovered a secret so rare, so unexpected, it would shake the coin world to its core. That penny, a humble 1960 D mint mark Lincoln, sold for over $1 million. And the most shocking part? It could have been tossed away as worthless change. This coin story begins in Denver, 1960. The U.S. Mint was producing Lincoln memorial cents by the hundreds of millions, yet something unusual happened that year, a striking mistake that no one at the time could have predicted would turn into a fortune decades later. The mint mark D, placed just beneath the date, held the clue. Some of these pennies were struck with subtle variations in the date and minting details, the kind so small that even a trained eye might miss them. One day, in the early 2000s, a collector was sifting through a jar of old change. His attention snagged on a 1960 penny that looked different. The numerals in the date seemed slightly altered, the spacing between numbers almost imperceptibly off. He flipped it over, feeling the faint ridge of its rim, studying Lincoln's bust with intense focus. Something inside told him, this was not just another coin. And he was right. When he took it to a dealer, the reaction was immediate. The dealer's eyes widened, his voice dropped to a whisper. "Do you have any idea what you're holding?" The room seemed to shrink around them. The penny was authenticated, graded at the highest quality, and confirmed as one of the rarest surviving examples of a 1960 D variety, a piece so pristine and historically unique that it commanded a jaw-dropping auction price. Collectors were stunned. Newspapers picked up the story. Dealers scrambled to check their own inventories, but the mystery deepens. Why is this penny worth a fortune when countless others from 1960 are worth only face value? The answer lies in the minting process. That year, the Denver Mint produced two different date sizes, a small date and a large date, and in rare cases, the dies used for striking were altered mid-production, creating unusual hybrids or doubled details. Add in the fact that only a tiny number survived in flawless condition, and you have the perfect recipe for $1 million treasure hiding in plain sight. And then there's the human element, the stories of people who stumble across these coins without knowing their value. One man reportedly paid for a coffee with a 1960 D penny just like this, unknowingly giving away a fortune. Another collector found one in his grandfather's tackle box, buried under decades of dust and fishing hooks. These tales fuel the dream, the idea that somewhere, right now, a life-changing coin could be hiding in your spare change. But what happened next stunned even the most seasoned coin experts. After the $1 million sale, whispers spread through the coin community. More collectors began searching for 1960 D varieties, flooding coin shows and auction houses. Prices climbed. Every new discovery sparked a bidding war. And yet, the finest specimens, the ones with razor-sharp details, rich original luster, and absolutely no signs of wear, remained elusive. The tension grew. Each time a new 1960 D penny appeared at auction, the room would go silent. Bidders leaned forward. Palms grew sweaty. The auctioneer's voice rang out, $1 million, $1,100,000, $1,200,000, until finally, the gavel dropped. Another fortune claimed by a coin no bigger than a fingernail. So how do you know if you've got the right one? Look closely at the date, the 1, the 9, the 6, and the 0. In the rare small date version, the 6 sits higher, the numbers appear more compact, and the overall shape feels tighter than on a standard penny. Check for a clear, well-defined D mint mark just beneath the date, struck cleanly and without distortion. Any signs of doubling in the numbers or mint mark can increase the value dramatically. And condition is everything. Even the rarest variety can be worth far less if it's scratched, worn, or discolored. Many people make the mistake of thinking a coin must be ancient to be valuable. But in the world of numismatics, rarity, condition, and demand are the true keys. The 1960 D mint mark Lincoln penny proves it, a mid-century cent that can outshine gold when the right combination of factors align. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't just toss the change aside. Look closely. Study every detail. Because somewhere, mixed in with the most ordinary coins, could be a 1960 D penny that transforms your life forever. This penny almost disappeared forever, tossed in with the loose change, forgotten, and lost. But one man's sharp eyes turned what seemed like a worthless coin into a jaw-dropping discovery, worth over $1.5 million. It's the 2014 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Ordinary to almost everyone, yet hiding a secret so rare, so impossible, that even veteran coin dealers can barely believe it exists. Collectors were stunned when the first one surfaced. It came not from a collector's vault, not from a dusty old hoard in someone's attic, but from everyday pocket change. A coin most people would have spent without a second thought. The man who found it didn't even realize what he had at first. He'd emptied his pockets onto his kitchen counter, and something about the penny felt different. The luster, the sharpness of Lincoln's portrait, the absence of that tiny letter beneath the date. It was all there. And yet, it was the kind of difference most eyes would miss. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When he took it to a local dealer, the man's hands trembled as he examined it under magnification. Within minutes, phone calls were being made. Photos were sent to grading services. And whispers began to spread. A 2014 no-mint mark penny had been confirmed. Because every modern penny struck in Philadelphia since 2010 should have a tiny P mint mark. The absence of it in 2014 was unheard of. This wasn't just a missing letter. It was a mistake at the U.S. Mint, a 1 in a billion oversight that created a modern rarity unlike anything seen in decades. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin, because it's not just rare, it's modern rare. That means it could still be out there, in your change, right now. One well-preserved example went to auction, and the bidding war that followed left jaws on the floor. Collectors from across the country fought for it, each determined to own the coin that no one thought could exist. When the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was over $1.5 million. For a penny, but the real shock? Experts believe more might be out there, and they could be hiding in plain sight. Now here's where things get even more fascinating. This wasn't a coin pulled from a special set or proof roll. This was circulation strike, made for everyday use, meant to jingle in pockets and roll across store counters. Which means that finding one is possible, but only if you know exactly what to look for. Most people see the date 2014 and assume it's nothing special. They miss the key detail, the missing mint mark beneath the year. In 2014, every Philadelphia penny should show a P. But this one? Completely blank. No letter. Just a bare date and Lincoln's steady gaze. But the missing mint mark isn't the only clue. Some of these rare coins also display unusual die markers, tiny lines, doubled features, or subtle shifts in the design caused by the minting error. Under magnification, these small details can confirm authenticity and send the value skyrocketing. Imagine finding one. The heart-racing moment when you realize the coin in your hand is the same type that's sold for $1 million. The weight of it suddenly feels different, as if you're holding history and a fortune at the same time, and yet, the odds are tricky. Many people think they've found one, only to discover it's a worn coin or a polished fake. That's why knowing the right verification steps is essential. A legitimate 2014 no-mint mark penny must be authenticated by a top-tier grading service. Without that seal of approval, the market won't touch it. But here's the part that will keep collectors awake at night. The U.S. Mint never publicly acknowledged the error. No official statement, no press release. Just silence. Which means, somewhere out there, a handful of these coins could still be floating in circulation, unnoticed and unclaimed. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And tomorrow, it could be yours. The key is vigilance. Every penny you handle, every handful of change from the grocery store, every coin jar you dump out, could hide this rare treasure. Look closely at the date. Study the area beneath the numbers. If there's no mint mark, and the coin's condition is sharp, you may be holding a ticket to life-changing wealth, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It looked like an ordinary penny, dull, scratched, and almost forgotten at the bottom of a jar. But this unassuming 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny would stun the collecting world, because when it finally surfaced, it didn't just turn heads, it sold for over $1 million. Imagine it. Someone almost spent it on a cup of coffee. Someone else might have dropped it in a tip jar without a second thought. But hiding beneath its copper surface was a secret so rare, so unexpected, that seasoned coin dealers gasped when they saw it. This wasn't just a coin. This was history, luck, and fortune pressed into a single disc of metal. To understand why this penny is so extraordinary, we have to travel back to the late 1980s. It was a time when the Lincoln Memorial design was still standard, struck by the millions in U.S. Mint facilities. Pennies were so common that most people never even glanced at them. But in 1988, something unusual happened during production, a subtle, almost invisible change in the dies used to strike the coins. For reasons still debated among numismatists, certain dies intended for the upcoming 1989 penny design were mistakenly used on a small batch of 1988 pennies. On the surface, it looked like any other Lincoln cent. But the reverse, the side showing the Lincoln Memorial, contained design features from the future. This tiny, hidden mismatch would become the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and one worth a life-changing fortune. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Most of these error coins entered circulation completely unnoticed. They slipped through cashier drawers, jingled in pockets, and fell into couch cushions. People handled them, spent them, and forgot them. For decades, they hid in plain sight. That's why, when the first confirmed example emerged in near-perfect condition, collectors went wild. The bidding war that followed wasn't just about owning a coin, it was about holding the key to one of the rarest minting mysteries of the 20th century. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The final hammer price soared beyond what even optimists predicted. The lucky finder, an ordinary person who had simply been sorting through spare change, walked away with a payout worth more than $1 million. A single coin had turned pocket change into life-changing wealth. This wasn't just luck. This was proof that treasures still hide in the smallest, most overlooked corners of our daily lives. And yet, even now, many people have no idea that they might be holding one of these pennies without realizing it. Collectors began scouring their jars, boxes, and piggy banks. Dealers kept magnifying glasses at the ready. The hunt had begun, and it hasn't stopped since. Why? Because the 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, with this rare transitional error, is still out there. You can learn to spot it. You don't need fancy equipment or years of experience. All you need is patience, a keen eye, and the knowledge of exactly what to look for. 1988, then, make sure there is no mint mark under the date, meaning it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Now, here's the giveaway: flip the coin to the reverse and look closely at the letters America. The style of the designer's initials, FG for Frank Gasparo, is the telltale sign. On the rare variety, the G has a shape and placement matching the 1989 design, not the standard 1988 design. This tiny difference, almost invisible to the casual eye, is the million-dollar clue. People think any 1988 penny without a mint mark is valuable. It's not. You need the transitional reverse, the wrong design for the year. Without it, it's just a regular cent. With it, well, that's when your hands might start to shake. So picture this: somewhere, right now, a coin jar in a dusty garage, a forgotten box in a basement, or even the change you get at a gas station could be hiding one of these incredible treasures. One coin, one mistake from decades ago, could be the difference between loose change and $1 million in your bank account. This penny could have slipped through your fingers without a second thought. Maybe you would have tossed it into a tip jar, or let it rattle around in your car's cup holder. But for one lucky collector, a simple 1970 Lincoln penny, just 1 cent, became the key to a life-changing fortune. At auction, it brought in nearly $1.7 million. And the craziest part? Most people still have no idea WHY started like any ordinary day. A man in Denver was sorting through a jar of loose change, something he'd been doing for years. He didn't expect much. After all, it was just pennies, nickels, dimes. But then, one coin caught his eye. It was darker than the rest. He picked it up, and at first glance, it looked like nothing special. Just a 1970 penny with a small D under the date. He almost tossed it back. Almost, but something he didn't know what told him to hold on. And that decision changed everything. This particular penny had a secret buried deep in its copper surface. A flaw so rare that even seasoned coin dealers could go their entire careers without seeing it. A tiny, almost invisible minting error from more than 50 years ago, the kind that makes collectors' hearts race. Now, before we get to the shocking detail, you need to understand something. The year 1970 wasn't just any year for U.S. coinage. The U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins, working at a blistering pace. Mistakes were bound to happen, but most were caught before leaving the facility. Most, but not this one. This 1970 penny escaped into circulation carrying a secret flaw that, decades later, would ignite a frenzy among collectors. And here's where it gets fascinating: the error was so subtle, so hidden, that even if you held it under bright light, you might not notice right away. But those who do notice, they know they've struck gold, and this is where the story takes a turn. He didn't rush to a dealer. He didn't sell it for a quick $100. He did his research. He learned that in the world of coin collecting, the tiniest imperfection could mean the difference between pocket change and $1 million, and when he finally brought it to auction, the bids were electric. The room buzzed with whispers. Some people had flown across the country just to see it in person. The numbers climbed fast: 50,000, 100,000, 300,000, until finally, the gavel fell at a staggering $1.7 million. It all comes down to a rare misalignment during minting, a doubling of the date and details that can only be seen under magnification. Collectors call it a double die, and in 1970 at the Denver Mint, a handful of pennies were struck with this anomaly. Most were worn down in circulation and lost forever. But a tiny few survived in pristine condition. Those few are now worth more than most houses. The doubling is most visible in the date. Look closely at the 1970 and you'll see a shadow, a ghostly second set of numbers overlapping the first. On some, even Lincoln's profile shows a faint doubling along the jaw and coat. But here's the catch: countless counterfeiters have tried to fake it. That's why authentication is everything. You're sorting through spare change, and you spot a 1970 penny with a D mint mark. What would you do? Would you shrug it off? Or would you check the date under a magnifying glass, hoping to see that tiny doubling? Because here's the truth: coins like this don't just belong in museums or auction houses. They could be sitting unnoticed in coffee cans, dresser drawers, even in your pocket right now. And the people who find them? They're not always expert collectors. Sometimes they're just ordinary folks who get lucky and know what to look for, and this is why dealers are rushing to buy up every unsearched jar of pennies they can find. They know the odds are small, but the reward is enough to make history. Collectors were shocked when news of the $1.7 million sale hit. Forums lit up. Emails poured into dealers' inboxes. Everyone wanted to know the same thing: could there be more out there? And the answer is yes, but here's the part that stuns even seasoned numismatists. Many of these rare 1970 D double die pennies are hiding in plain sight, mistaken for ordinary coins. Some are in change jars. Others are in penny rolls still sitting on bank shelves. The thrill of the hunt is alive and real, and if you're patient, the payoff can be beyond your wildest dreams. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Yours could too. Not every 1970 D penny is valuable. Most are worth exactly 1 cent. The magic lies in spotting the doubling. So here's what you look for, and listen closely, because this is where dreams turn real. First, under strong light, check that 1970 date. The doubled die shows a clear separation in the numbers. Next, look for similar doubling in the word Liberty and along Lincoln's profile. If you see it, don't clean the coin. Don't scratch it. Place it gently in a protective holder. Then get it authenticated by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC. Counterfeiters will try to fool you, but genuine experts can spot the difference instantly. And if yours is real and in top condition, you could be holding a fortune. Think about that. Right now, as you listen, someone, somewhere, is pulling a 1970 D penny out of a coin jar, not realizing it's worth $1 million. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's your neighbor. It was small enough to slip through your fingers, and almost worthless enough to be tossed away without a second thought. But this 1985 D mint mark Lincoln penny ended up selling for close to $1.8 million. One man's pocket change became the kind of discovery most collectors only dream about. And the strangest part? This tiny treasure is still hiding in plain sight in pockets, jars, and drawers all across America. Picture this: it's a chilly afternoon in Denver, 1985. Inside the U.S. Mint, thousands of Lincoln pennies are rolling off the presses, their copper-plated zinc surfaces gleaming under harsh industrial lights. Workers are focused, machines are loud, and coins are pouring into bins by the tens of thousands. But somewhere in that blur of metal and noise, something went wrong. A small, nearly invisible minting flaw, so subtle that it would escape almost every eye, slipped into circulation. That mistake would one day make one lucky penny worth more than most people's homes. The coin's journey was ordinary, at first. It passed from hand to hand, maybe across a grocery store counter, maybe into a child's piggy bank. It could have been used to pay for gum, dropped into a vending machine, or lost between couch cushions. No one knew the secret it carried. No one, except the coin itself. Years later, a collector in his 60s was sifting through a small box of coins he'd been meaning to roll for the bank. He almost skipped over it. After all, who pays attention to a penny from the 1980s? But something about the way the light hit its surface made him pause. He held it closer. His heart started to race. There it was, the microscopic difference, the telltale sign of an extraordinary rarity, and here's where the story takes a turn that stunned the entire coin world. That collector brought the penny to an expert. The grading process began. Under magnification, they found an ultra-sharp strike on the obverse, a slightly misaligned die impression, and a lustrous finish that had survived decades in near-perfect condition. These weren't just quirks, they were the kind of traits that transform an everyday coin into a once-in-a-generation find.at auction. The bidding war was fast and fierce. Dealers flew in from across the country. Private collectors sent their agents. Each was determined not to leave without it. When the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was jaw-dropping, nearly $1.8 million. Gasps filled the room. Even seasoned numismatists couldn't believe it. This was no mere penny anymore, it was a legend. What made this coin so valuable? It comes down to a rare combination of factors: a Denver mint mark from a year with generally low numismatic interest, the minting error that went unnoticed, and the pristine state of preservation. Together, they created the perfect storm of rarity, beauty, and intrigue, the kind that sends prices into the stratosphere. And here's the detail most people miss: the error itself is almost impossible to see with the naked eye. You need the right magnification, the right angle of light, and the knowledge of what to look for. Miss it, and you'll spend your whole life passing over a fortune without even knowing. Collectors were shocked by the sale, but what happened afterward was just as fascinating. Within days, coin shops reported a surge in people bringing in jars of change, all searching for their own million-dollar miracle. Online forums exploded with theories and grainy photos. Some claimed they'd found one, most turned out to be ordinary. But the hope, that spark, kept the hunt alive. Imagine finding one yourself. You're emptying your pockets at the end of the day, and there it is, a 1985 penny with that tiny D below the date. You grab a magnifying glass, hold it to the light, and your pulse quickens as you spot the minute irregularity that could change everything. In that instant, you're holding history, and possibly your ticket to a life you never imagined. 1985. Look just below it for the D mint mark. Then, inspect the coin for sharp, flawless details in Lincoln's profile and lettering. Check for subtle die alignment differences and unusually crisp edges. The surface should have a brilliant, almost uncirculated luster, with no major scratches or wear. And most importantly, if you even suspect you found one, never clean it. Cleaning can destroy both the coin's surface and its value, because here's the truth: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.